He built a 400 miles per hour dream in a local garage, then drove it straight into legend. Athol Graham wasn't a corporate-sponsored racer. He was a Utah mechanic who trusted his hands more than he trusted physics. But at 300 miles per hour, the line between pioneer and tragedy is thinner than a coat of paint. This is the story of the city of Salt Lake and the day the dream broke apart. Athol Graham was born into a landscape of speed. Growing up in the shadow of the Bonneville Salt Flats, he didn't just see a wasteland, he saw the fastest place on Earth. In the late 1950s, the racing world was changing. The era of the gentleman racer was fading, replaced by massive budgets and factory-backed teams. But Athol was a throwback. He was a man who understood the language of engines the way some people understand their native tongue. To Athol, an engine wasn't just a collection of steel and fire. It was an argument against the impossible. He spent his days in a Salt Lake City shop, his hands permanently stained with grease, surrounded by people who shared his quiet, stubborn ambition. They weren't interested in the spotlight. They were interested in the horizon. While the rest of the world looked at the Salt Flats and saw a void, Athol and his small crew saw a canvas. They decided that they didn't need $1 million contract to make history. They just needed a plan, a surplus engine, and the courage to weld them together. It was a classic underdog narrative. But on the Salt, being an underdog doesn't just mean you have less money. It means you have less of a safety net. The birthplace of the city of Salt Lake wasn't a sterile laboratory. It was a rented garage lit by buzzing fluorescent bulbs. This was where the garage-built miracle took shape. The car was a streamliner, a silver needle designed to pierce the air with as little resistance as possible. Its frame was narrow, almost claustrophobic, built to wrap around the driver in the massive heart of the machine. A World War II surplus Allison V1710 aircraft engine. This was the same engine that powered the P-40 Warhawk and the P-38 Lightning.
It was a 1,700 cubic inch monster capable of producing over 1,300 horsepower.
Putting an airplane engine into a car in 1960 wasn't just ambitious, it was a feat of raw engineering. There were no computer simulations to tell Athol how the chassis would react to that kind of torque. There were no wind tunnels to test if the hand-beaten aluminum panels would stay attached at hundreds of miles per hour. Instead, there was the eye. Athol and his crew relied on their instincts, their experience, and a kind of bravado that only comes from knowing every single rivet in your machine. They spent thousands of hours shaping the body, obsessing over the aerodynamics, and hoping that their intuition was stronger than the violent forces of nature. They were building a rocket for the ground, and they were doing it on a shoestring budget. In December 1959, the city of Salt Lake was finally ready to scream. When the team arrived at Bonneville, the air was crisp and the salt was hard. It was the moment of truth for the local mechanic. As Athol fired up the Allison V12, the sound didn't just fill the air, it shook the very crust of the earth. The car didn't just run, it flew. Athol clocked a staggering 344.7 miles per hour. In an instant, the garage-built entry from Utah was no longer a curiosity, it was a threat. To hit 344 miles per hour with a hand-built car and a tiny crew was a minor miracle. It was a signal to the racing world that Athol Graham had arrived. But for Athol, 344 was just a warm-up. It was the proof of concept that convinced him the ultimate prize was within his reach. He had tasted the speed, and now he wanted the record. After the success of 59, the talk in the shop turned to one number, 400. In 1960, the 400 miles per hour barrier was the holy grail of land speed racing. It was the physical limit of what men thought was possible on wheels. No one had officially broken it. John Cobb's 1947 record of 394 miles per hour had stood for 13 years, a ghost that haunted every racer who stepped onto the salt. Athol wasn't boasting when he said he wanted 400. To him, it was a logical progression. The crew doubled their efforts. They refined the cooling systems, checked the tire tolerances, and obsessed over every vibration. Every bolt they tightened carried the weight of that 400 miles per hour goal. They knew they were moving into uncharted territory. At those speeds, the rules of driving change. You aren't just steering a car, you are managing a low-altitude flight. But the confidence in the shop was high. They believed in Allison, they believed in the city, and most of all, they believed in Athol. The Bonneville Salt Flats are a place of absolute brutal honesty. The salt doesn't care about your story. It is a surface that can be as hard as concrete one day and as slick as grease the next. At 100 miles per hour, a slight imperfection in the salt is a bump. At 300 miles per hour, it's a ramp. Streamliners like the city of Salt Lake live on a knife's edge. They are designed to be neutral in the air, but as the speed climbs, the air pressure builds up under the nose. It's a constant battle to keep the car on the ground. If the nose lifts by even a fraction of a degree, the aerodynamics flip. The car stops being a dart and becomes a wing. There is no room for error, no second chance when the air decides to take control. This was the dead zone Athol was preparing to enter. August 1st, 1960. The morning of August 1st dawned clear and blindingly white. There was a quiet energy on the flats. A small crowd of family, friends, and fellow racers gathered to watch the local hero make his move. Athol didn't look like a man about to gamble with his life. He looked like a man ready to finish a job. He climbed into the cockpit, the smell of high-octane fuel filling the small space. He buckled in, gave the signal, and brought the Allison engine to life. The roar was deafening, a mechanical thunder that rolled across the white expanse. The car lunged forward, leaving a trail of salt dust in its wake. The acceleration was smooth, powerful, and terrifyingly fast. Within seconds, the needle swept past 200, then 300. Athol was back in the territory of legends. Then the quarrel began. Witnesses saw the car begin to wander. At speeds exceeding 300 miles per hour, a slight tremor in the handling is a warning from the gods. What started as a whisper in the chassis became a violent shout. The city of Salt Lake began to drift off its line. Athol, ever the craftsman, tried to correct it. But at those velocities, the physics of the crash moved faster than human reflex. The car lost its aerodynamic set. The air caught the nose, and the silver needle was suddenly at the mercy of the wind. The car rolled, tumbling across the salt in a violent explosion of aluminum and steel. The dream that had been built so carefully in a Salt Lake garage was shattered in a matter of heartbeats. Subscribe. Give the grease-stained hands one last nod of respect. Athol Graham died that morning, leaving a hole in the Utah racing community that would never truly be filled. The silence that followed the crash was a physical weight. The friends and family who had poured their lives into the city of Salt Lake were left standing in a white wasteland, staring at the remnants of a dream. The news moved quickly through the close-knit fraternity of land speed racers. It was a somber reminder that the Salt Flats are not a playground. They are a proving ground where the stakes are life and death. Athol's death wasn't just a loss of a driver. It was the loss of a vision. He was a man who had reached for the stars with a hand-built ladder, and for a few brief moments, he had almost touched them. The story of the city of Salt Lake didn't end in the wreckage. Athol's family, particularly his son Butch, made sure of that. They didn't hide from the tragedy. They honored the effort. They preserved the fragments of the car, the weathered paint, the nose cone, the memories of the long nights in the shop. These pieces became more than just relics of a crash. They became symbols of a father's ambition. Over the years, parts of the car were restored and displayed, not to celebrate the tragedy, but to celebrate the ingenuity. They serve as a bridge between the backyard era of racing and the high-tech world of today. The city of Salt Lake survived in the stories told by those who were there, a silver ghost that still haunts the record books. Athol Graham's story offers hard, necessary lessons. It teaches us that passion without safety is a dangerous combination. In the wake of his death, the racing world began to look more seriously at driver protection, at the physics of lift, and at the need for more rigorous testing. But it also teaches us about the power of the human spirit. Athol proved that you don't need a corporate logo on your chest to be a pioneer. He showed that a man with a wrench and a dream can challenge the world's fastest wreckers. His story resists a simple ending. It is a mix of warning and wonder, a reminder that the greatest risks often come from the greatest loves. The technology of land speed racing has changed beyond recognition since 1960. Today's racers use carbon fiber, satellite telemetry, and computer-modeled aerodynamics. But the engine behind it, the human desire to see what's over the horizon, remains unchanged. Every year, new teams arrive at Bonneville, staring at the same white line that Athol Graham stared at. They are still chasing the same ghosts. They have better tools, but they are driven by the same question: how fast can we go? Athol was one of the first to provide an answer, and his echo still vibrates across the flats every time an engine roars to life. Athol Graham never reached 400 miles per hour. He never saw his name at the top of the world record list, but he left something more enduring, a legacy of grit. He left a story about a man who wasn't afraid to put everything on the line for a dream built in a garage. The city of Salt Lake roars in the memory of everyone who understands the cost of speed. Daring and consequence are forever braided together on the salt, and Athol Graham's name remains etched in the crust of the desert he loved. Athol Graham, the city of Salt Lake. Bonneville, August 1st, 1960. A mechanic, a machine, and a dream that refused to stay in the garage. Remembered.
If you enjoyed watching this story about a true underdog pioneer, be sure to subscribe for more tales of speed, grit, and the pursuit of the impossible.